Before we start today's program, a word from the makers of Coffin Nail cigarettes. Gentlemen, did you know that smoking at least 2 coffin nails every day has been scientifically proven to increase healthfulness and attractivity? Indeed! And ladies, I'm glad to be able to tell you that with Coffin Nail's new asbestos filters, unsightly finger burns will be a thing of the past. So I encourage all of you to go out and try a packet of Coffin Nails today. And look out for our new cherry-flavored Coffin Nail cigarettes for the kiddies. Meanwhile, enjoy the review.
Hello, I'm Victor, and this is the Radio Yard. Yeah, I know I'm going too far with that. The Junkyard. Anyway, this month's roundtable theme is the radio drama, and unfortunately, I, like many people, have a cultural blind spot towards most things radio, especially, anything that's not pop music, basically. As ashamed as I am to admit it. So, in trying to come up with a subject to review, rather than, go out and consult with friends who know more about radio and look around on the internet to find something new and interesting that I haven't explored, I decided I would go with the one piece of the genre that I am aware of, and know pretty darn well, The Shadow.
Even if you don't know who that is specifically, you might still recognize the image, the prototypical Mystery Man-style pulp hero. Originally just a sinister voice for the Detective Story Hour radio show, he became so popular that he was developed into his own character with his own show and magazine. Rather than try to do an overarching review of the whole series, which, considering how many episodes of The Shadow have been made, just isn't happening, I'm going to do a review of the first episode, then give some thoughts on everything else Shadow-related. The first episode, Death House Rescue, does a good job of establishing the character. Wealthy Lamont Cranston, after making an intensive study both of modern science and foreign mysticism, develops mental powers which he uses to fight crime as the Shadow. He fights as a vigilante because the methods he used to gain said powers could be replicated by others, and even if he only gave those methods to the police, criminals would soon get a hold of them as well. He also has operatives such as Margot Lane, reporter and love interest, no apparent relation to Lois. The story proper is simple. Chump, needing a job to pay for his daughter's treatments, gets tricked into driving a getaway car for some bank robbers. They dump him, letting him take the rap for both the robbery and the murder of a cop along the way. Chump is soon scheduled to fry in the electric chair. The Shadow suspects his innocence and investigates, using his ability to cloud men's minds, effectively becoming invisible. As the hour draws near, the Shadow approaches Chump and, using mind reading, re-watches the man's memory with a detective's eye. He discovers that one of the criminals left a thumbprint on the rear view. He calls the thugs, taunting them with this information, which lures them back to the garage where Margot has arranged for a police ambush. Chump is saved, and Cranston has given him a sizable anonymous donation for sick daughter's treatment.
There are a few things I liked about this. First is that it was vivid. Between the clever Foley and the surprisingly subtle hints within the script, I was never at a loss for what was going on, who was talking, where they were.
I also appreciated that Margot did actively help out, convincing the police to go to the garage. If she had failed, the Shadow wouldn't have succeeded and Chump would be dead. Of course, she's not the most subtle operative in the world. Besides having a few things to explain to the police, who didn't know the Shadow was involved, there's also this scene where she goes to talk to Chump's wife and goes on about her relationship troubles with a person she refuses to identify by name, while the wife just acts confused. If no one manages to put 2 and 2 together with Margot and Shadow, I can't imagine Lamont having that much trouble clouding men's minds.
So that was Death House Rescue. The first, but definitely not the last.
Later episodes would have different authors and voice actors, Orson Welles being the most famous of the Shadows. And besides the radio show, there were short stories in the pulp magazines. I've read more Shadow than I've listened to, and they're a lot of fun. There were also comic books, including early originals and grittier reboots, as well as shows and movies. You may or may not be aware of a 90s Shadow movie starring Alec Baldwin. All I can say about that Shadow flick is that it is on my list, and you will be seeing it here on the Junkyard.
The Shadow has a long and continuing legacy. He was really one of the first superheroes, and you can see little bits and aspects of his character in every cape that ever thought it better to stick to the shadows. And despite the fact that it is rooted very definitely in its era, that sort of 20s, 30s type thing, it can still be enjoyed by people, today. And I encourage you to do so at this link. In any case, this has been Victor with the Junkyard. Thanks for watching, and have a good day. By the way, check out the other Roundtable reviews for this month at the link provided. Oh, and meanwhile, because there's no other way to end this, the weed of crime bears bitter fruit. Crime does not pay. The Shadow knows.